Should you get a compensator? Okay, so here's a couple different compensators that I have. This one is the one that comes with the Springfield Hellcat RDP, and this is an Armory Craft compensator. I have tested this one. I have a video on that I'll put here. This one I haven't tested yet. I've improved my test setup, and we will be testing that later this year. Anyway, so here we're going to talk about some pros and cons of whether you should or shouldn't get a compensator, some things to consider, and then you can go and decide on your own. Okay, we're going to talk about the bad news first, the compensator. So this is going to add a significant amount of cost depending on the compensator. This one I think was like 80 bucks, but then I also had to get the threaded barrel, and threaded barrels for the P320s run anywhere from like $100 for an aftermarket one. This one is the SIG one itself, and it was like $200. So to fit this out with a compensator was like $300 add on to the gun. Now the Hellcat RDP came with it, so not too much there. Okay, the other thing to consider is it's going to add more weight to your gun, and then it's also going to make it more bulky. So holstering, maneuvering, whatever is, you know, something to consider. Probably the biggest thing to consider is it is going to change the dynamics of how your gun works and can very likely change the reliability of your gun. So when I put this compensator on, so this P320 ran flawlessly for me with my hand loads, and then I threw the compensator on and then it didn't cycle at all. So I had to actually change out the spring with a much lighter spring, and now it'll shoot all day long. I trust my life to this gun, no problem. It made it less reliable, so whatever you're doing, carry ammo, once you throw a compensator on it, you really need to make sure it's going to work like flawless, like it was brand new. Okay, other things to consider is it can actually make your gun a little bit more noisy, although I have shot these tons and tons side by side with Hellcats that are not compensator and friends with not compensated P320s, and honestly, I cannot tell the difference for the life of me if there's any noise difference. But I have been told that they are slightly more noisy, and some people report them being more noisy. Okay, another thing to consider is disassembly. Now that you got this thing threaded with thread locker onto your barrel, when you pull this thing apart, you can't really get your barrel out with taking the compensator off. This one has set screws on it. The one nice thing I do like about the Hellcat RDP compensator, even though it's smaller and likely less effective, is they have this little indexing thing that you can pull it off without any tools, and it always lines up perfectly, although there is maybe a little bit of slop there, but honestly it's not really noticeable. So it's harder to take apart. Okay, other things, if you're shooting in unorthodox positions, so I have a video where I was shooting between my legs. Okay, and I was shooting the Hellcat and I could feel some extra gas discharges, or for some reason you were in a close encounter using your leveraging arm to kind of push somebody away, and heaven forbid having to shoot close, you would feel the gases discharging, and it's just something to consider. Also, if you're shooting in low light conditions, the compensator can change the way that if there's any muzzle blasts, although not really enough to change your night vision, but there are definitely some cons. Okay, so now let's get into the pros. Now I listed a gajillion cons. So the pros is it does reduce recoil a little, and I have a video on that here. I think I put that earlier. So it does reduce recoil a little bit, but only about like 10-15%, but it is enough to be noticeable. And that's with this compensator, which is a concealed carry smaller compensator. I have not yet tested this larger compensator, so we'll be testing it later this year to see how much of a difference it makes. So it makes it a little bit easier to shoot. It allows for slightly faster follow-up shots, and it also allows you to be a touch more accurate. Now, it doesn't make the gun more accurate, but if you're just dealing with less recoil, it tends to make the shooter a little more accurate. But you can, with training and stuff, you can obviously shoot perfectly fine without a compensator. Anyway, so those are kind of some of the pros and cons to compensator. If you have had any experiences or any other comments or thoughts on compensators, please put in the comment section below. And as always, thank you guys. I'll see you next time.